Michael. Rehab Mukami.
Caleb Amisi Saboti.
Rebecca Miano, you are one of the few we did with you just about 2 years ago, and here you are again. We'll start in earnest by inviting you to take an oath. And the oath is on the holy books, either the Quran, the Bible, or the Hindu holy book, whichever is your faith. Which one?
I will take the Holy Bible.
The Holy Bible. So be upstanding and take the Bible in your right hand and recite the oath.
I, Rebecca Miano, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. You may sit and sign to the oath. If you have your documents, as you should, you'll give them to the sergeant to pass them on to the clerk to cross-check with what we have in our possession. And when we are done with you, you leave with your original documents. In just under 5 minutes, Rebecca, for purposes of these proceedings, members will be referring to you, including myself, as nominee. So nominee, tell the committee your name, your educational background, your work experience, and your key competences that make you suitable for being recommended to take up the appointment for which you have been proposed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. My name is Rebecca Miano, the nominee for the Doctorate of Tourism and Wildlife. I am a lawyer by profession, having graduated from the University of Nairobi, and also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya of good standing. I have been able to do leadership trainings at Harvard University, at the IP3, and many others. I am an alumni of Strathmore University and Navarra University, Spain. I am also a certified PPP expert, having obtained that at the IP3 Institute. I have been trained on advanced negotiation skills, and also a member of the Fast Forward Premium Leadership Group, that consists of leaders in Kenya. Mr. Chairman, over time, in my workstations, I have ended up in the C-suite offices, the last one being a CEO for 5 years. And in that docket, I acquired critical skills in terms of leadership, in terms of managing operations, their operations, finance, strategies. And I'll hasten to add that one of my strengths is strategy formulation, the discipline of execution and follow-through, and to rally teams towards work plans so that we can deliver on the mandate that we have been given as a team. I have been a legal advisor with experience of over 30 years, handling all matters legal, overseeing litigation, commercial transactions. I am very conversant with the international financing models, having negotiated financing for many infrastructure projects. Mr. Chairman, I was later then appointed or sworn in as a cabinet secretary after vetting by this committee, and I took over the docket of East Africa Community, and thereafter, after a reshuffle, I moved to the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. In those dockets, I have come to get a deep understanding of the operations of government, the strategy and the manifesto that is being implemented. And Mr. Chairman, I feel that the competencies I have, which I have described, that is academic qualification, managerial and leadership, the technical skills, all those have gone a long way to hone me and prepare me for even another docket.
I will now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to go to ask you. And your answer should be concise and precise.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mine are really not questions, but something that issues that have been raised at the hotel industry that we'd like some assurance. Should you be approved that you will undertake? The hotel industry is complaining that the classification or starting of hotels was last done 6 years ago. If we approve you, will you ensure that that is done in the quickest time possible, because it's making it difficult to attract tourism? Also, there is the issue of Airbnb accommodation that has caused some security challenges, and what this one will require an answer. What will you do, if approved, to ensure that the Tourism Regulatory Authority has the ability to do it, or the vision you have to do that, since an emerging market? And lastly, the two funds, the Tourism Fund and the Tourism Promotion Fund, what can they do to support the tourism parastyle so they can execute the mandate? Thank you.
Go ahead and respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On the question of classification, it is indeed very important that hotels are classified, because then they give them world-class practice. We know that world over, classification of hotels is a necessity. And besides that, it is a requirement of the East Africa community that hotels are classified. And back here in Kenya, if we do not do that, then our guests and the occupants will be left to classify it for themselves, which will then distort the pricing, which will distort the classes. And if I am approved, I will undertake to conclude the work that is pending on classification, so that we have an objective classification system that has integrity and that will enable our hotels compete globally, and even maybe be included in some of the chains because of the classification. We know that if you do not classify yourself, you find other people classifying you. And I know that if we look at the world best practice, we cannot leave our hotels without classification. It is true, and I have been briefed as I met the industry, as I met the ministry. This has been pending for the last 5 to 6 years, and indeed this will be an imperative. It will be a priority in case I am approved to take that docket. The next question was on Airbnb. My view, Mr. Speaker, is that the case of Airbnbs is a classic example where an industry is overtaken by the growth of the industry. And I will not hesitate to say, because we have research institutions, research organizations dealing with tourism, they must be on top of the game with what is happening, the contemporary changes, so that as a country, we keep up, we foresee, we prepare ourselves. When I look at the Airbnbs, we are lagging behind as a country, as a region. We are trying to catch up, trying to avoid and maneuver issues that come up. And therefore, that being the case, if approved, I will ensure that this is also a priority, so that in consultation with other arms of governments, with other ministries that have a stake on this, we finalize the strategy, the regulations, any legislative and policy agenda that is required, so that we tidy up that space that is currently untidy, getting into security issues and all manner of things. The third question is on tourism fund, taken together with the tourist promotion fund. The tourist fund is the one that collects levies in the hotel industry, previously the catering levy, and the tourism promotion fund is the one that collects levies from travel, international travel, and local travel, and there is a specific amount of money that then is attached to the two levies. Mr. Chairman, I have looked at the information and I have been taken through. I believe that these funds give resources that should catapult the tourism sector, the hotel industry, so that Kenya is able to compete. Mr. Chairman, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and I was reading the manifesto, it recognizes that the tourism sector is one of the key sectors, but Kenya currently is punching below its weight. So that's a description of what we have as the tourism sector. A lot has been done, but we are still punching below our weight as a country. If you look at the numbers, Mr. Chairman, with a population of 55 million and counting, and our tourist data of about 2 million to 2.3 million visitors, that confirms that Kenya is punching below the weight. Many countries that have succeeded in tourism actually are now getting more visitors than residents. The ratio is a little better than we are seeing in Kenya. But the contradiction that I see is that Kenya is a destination that is much better than many other destinations that are attracting very many tourists. The Creator has endowed Kenya with the weather, natural resources, people who are hospitable, and many, many other tourist attractions. But then we are still punching below the weight. So these two funds should then be structured in a way that it addresses this burning platform. I'll call it a burning platform because it is urgent. It is something we need to do. And as a country, this tourism sector will be the one that will take Kenya, among the ones that will take Kenya to the next level. And therefore, we will structure, we will organize so that the fund is able to fund the critical priority activities that are required to develop and promote tourism.
Majority Leader, you have any question?
She has said what I would have asked in her preamble. I have a question.
Minority Leader? Okay, Naisla?
Honorable Miano, leadership requires that you're not only seen or heard, but your leadership must be felt by the legacies that one leaves wherever they happen. So very briefly, just mention 2 things that you have left as a legacy in the 2 dockets that you previously held in a short period of time, 2 years. What can you say are those 2 things? And what is the legacy you will want to leave in the docket you will hold if this committee and National Assembly approves you? Lastly, having worked as the CS of East Africa Community, do you consider Kenya to be competitive in its tourism? This one day I landed at JKIA. I was so happy because there were so many people from the international community who had landed at JKIA, and I was like, wow, all these people are going to Masai Mara, to the coast or somewhere else. But then when we got to where we branched, as the locals go, and those who were on transit, they all went to the transit. I don't know where they were going. So please tell us whether we're actually competitive as a country.
We'll take another. Nelson?
Thank you. Madam Yano, Masai Mara Game Reserve. Global migration is one of the 8 wonders of the world. There's a lot of activity, human activity, that is happening in the Masai Mara Game Reserve. I'm sure you visited and you've noticed, because the leaders there have complained over a lot of human activity. The other one is the county government of Narok recently arbitrarily increased the fee, the end fee, into the park, which has sent so many of the tourists out to Tanzania and Serengeti. What we want to do to reverse the trend?
Go ahead and answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the 2 things that I can say I'm proud of, I have achieved in the 2 dockets that I have served in the East Africa Community Arid and Semi-Arid lands, I am glad that we managed to make Kenya a strong partner, and our participation was visible. Because of that, we were able to resolve many non-tariff barriers so that we could have products from Kenya being taken to other countries. I remember the case of juices in Tanzania and other products. So that is one. And then the participation last year in May, public participation for the East African Confederation Constitution. Kenya was among the first countries to finalize the public participation. We went around the country explaining about the Confederation, while at it, a good appreciation across of what the East Africa community is, the positioning of Kenya and the benefits. Under the arid and semi-arid lands docket, I took that docket or that department when we were at the worst drought in Kenya that had not been seen over the last 40 years. We were able to put strategies to manage, glad that we did not lose human lives. I remember, Mr. Chairman, that every time we had a cabinet meeting, the drought, arid and semi-arid lands being a contemporary issue, I always had a brief. I always brought together the whole of cabinet and government to appreciate what is happening, and I learned the power of communication, the power of disseminating information so that everyone can rally together, especially when there is a crisis or when we are facing trouble. The question on whether Kenya is a competitive destination, my response is that we can do better. And Mr. Chairman,
Sorry, the Ministry of Trade, you were there for almost a year.
thank you very much. In the Ministry of Trade, I am very happy that for the 7 to 8 months that I was there, we were able to register significant and tangible results. We hastened the conclusion of the European Union Economic Partnership Agreement. We took it through the process of ratification. We signed it. And right now, there is a process to disseminate the information across the counties in partnership with the industry so that the country can appreciate the opportunities that are available in this great market covering 26 European countries, and it will be quota-free, duty-free. We were able to achieve that. Mr. Chairman, we have managed to create a robust relationship and participation with the private sector, roundtables to discuss issues, and based on that, I was appointed to chair the Business Reforms Action Plan with a timeline of 3 months. We met many stakeholders. We have a catalog, a whole menu of what issues are ailing industry, especially regarding the cost of doing business. I submitted the action plan to the cabinet. We then distilled it, and each ministry right now has a list of issues that they need to address if we are to strengthen investment, trade, and industries. And it was a very good document which can even form the backbone of what the government should address to create a conducive work environment. But finally, the global stage. We were able to have trade and business forums in various countries where we showcased Kenya as an investment destination. And I saw the rankings that were released in the last few months. Kenya was rated as the best destination for investment in 2024. We attracted a lot of startup capital, much more than our contemporaries in Africa. And we have quite a significant number of rankings. And if you recall, something that touches on tourism, a renowned travel agent from America did announce that Nairobi is the best city to visit in 2024, beating Montreal, Paris, and all the other cities. So we have significant work that is going on, and I'm sure that my successor will find a lot of systems already going, and it will just be plug and play. On the question of competitiveness of our tourism sector, Mr. Chairman, I would say that we have room for improvement. And the reason I say this, competitiveness is measured not only in terms of monetary value, but what services go with it and what products that we have. We know that for a long time, Kenya has been known for its beaches and safaris, what we call beach and bush. But the endowment we have in this country, requires that we have diversification of products, we have heritage attractions, we have cultural, sports, and many other things that we can cement and package. If you look at the monetary bit of the competitiveness, local tourism does seem to suggest that we are not very competitive. Our local tourism is still very low. We have not managed to convince the population that tourism is not only for visitors arriving from other countries, but we can do better in local tourism. But when you start that discussion, many Kenyans feel the hotels are expensive, other tourist attractions are expensive, and therefore there's quite a lot of room for us to position Kenya and rethink our strategies so that we are competitive in terms of monetary, in terms of product, in terms of service, and everything else that goes with tourism, including digitalization and many other things that contribute to the competitiveness. Mr. Chairman, on the question of Masai Mara, the wonders of the world, we have seen the uniqueness. I don't think there is such a park in the world, and we are glad that Kenya has that. But we are having quite a lot of challenges in terms of the numbers, in terms of the services. As I was preparing to appear before this committee, Mr. Chairman, I did meet with the ministry officials, I did meet with the sector, and had a discussion with Narok County. And I want to share with you the information I gathered, that there was a strategy, a tourism strategy 2021-2025, that was formulated with the participation of all the stakeholders. Some of the findings in that strategy and that work that was done is that there are things that needed to be done to make Masai Mara more competitive. And one of the proposals that I will discuss is that the rates for Masai Mara had not been increased for the last 15 years, despite the cost of managing the parks, despite many other costs coming up, operations and maintenance. And the stakeholders in that strategic discussions did recommend that there should be a review of the rates that are applicable so that there are enough finances to develop Masai Mara, to maintain it, to modernize it, and do all that pertains to make it more sustainable. These rates, the revised rates, were to be implemented and were actually implemented from January 2024, but to clarify that the new rates that were implemented were actually slightly lower than what the strategic plan had recommended. And therefore, the rates were implemented from January 2024. The data that I have seen is that Masai Mara in this high season has been up to 90% full and counting. And Mr. Chairman, I tried to check empirical data to show or to prove that tourism have shifted elsewhere. We do not have that empirical data yet. This reporting gained momentum a few weeks ago, despite the increment having been done in January. But what I'll say, if approved, and I assume office, I will equip myself with the right information, the right data, to have an informed decision and announce to the country the correct data, so that we are not having a reporting that is disadvantaging Kenya and maybe it is not correct, so that I'll promise to have accuracy and a strategic direction going forward.
Thank you, nominee.
That's the point, so that you not be very careful. I get the feeling that they've actually counted you in your communication. Narrow County collected a lot of money from those parks. There's nothing to show for it. In fact, you shouldn't have gone to the ministry to fact find. You should have done it independently. The fact that you went back to the same ministry to ask, I can tell you for sure they are colluding. Just take your own independent research and find out exactly what is happening in the Masai Mara Park.
There's a comment. Hussein, anything? Kikaria?
Chairman, recently I've seen so many transfers of game reserves, national parks, from the national government to the management of counties.
How many apart from Amboseli?
Okay, let me say that one, Amboseli. Now, is there a policy guideline on how these transfers should be done? And I'm saying this in line of whether, like, transferring Hell's Gate or Lake Nakuru for purposes of the county, giving license to fishermen in Lake Nakuru, which is a very big business that is being done legally. Thank you.
Yes, nominee, let's take one more, probably two more, and try to give short answers, succinct and clear. Mary?
Thank you, Chairman. Mine is also one and very short, and I'm picking it from the statement from the nominee that Kenya's field hotels are expensive, and I can't agree with you. I agree with you totally. Hoteliers have expressed concerns over the multiplicity of taxes, including tourism levy, housing levy, VAT, NSSF, income tax, PAYE, NHIF, trade license for counties, and you have to add now operating expenses where they must invest in marketing, on technology for them to get into these hotels. So, if you are successful nominee, what plans do you have to ease this burden? Do you foresee the likelihood of merging some of these taxes and levies as an incentive to investors? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is the compensation of wildlife cases. This is a comment you need to, if you are confirmed, you need to look at it, because it has stayed a long time and the paperwork is not the best. But what I want you to look at, the first thing is Section 35(2) of the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act. It needs to be relooked vis-a-vis the county governments, because in Meru, and I believe it may have happened somewhere else, the county government went and demolished one of the lodges in the park, and apparently they have to pay more than 300 to 400 million, and it's a foreign investor who has been there for long. So what kind of investors will come if those things are being done?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Wildlife Management Act actually stipulates and spells the role of the two levels of government, the county governments and the national government. And on the issue of transfer of national parks, I am aware that there is a task force that was formed to look at these matters, the merits, the demerits, the regulations, the processes and procedures that will be used in case of any transfers like Amboseli and any other that may be in that category. The task force, I am informed, has finalized its work, and in the next couple of weeks will be presenting this report, and I will be looking out at this report for my contribution, by the whole sector, so that we are able to come up with clear guidelines, clear advantages and clear processes of how this matter of transfer of national parks should be handled. Mr. Chairman, if approved, and I get into this docket, the list of priorities is forming up and it's becoming clear, so that we have clear policy directions and guidance, and that will enable actions to move much faster and with clarity, avoiding disputes and other issues that at times derail processes, make them take much longer. And I will promise, if approved, I will be able to look at this as a priority. On hotels, licenses and levies, there is duplicity and multiplicity of licenses and levies. In preparing for this vetting and this hearing, I came across upwards of 16 licenses and levies that apply to the hotel industry. And Mr. Chairman, this speaks to the ease of doing business, the cost of doing business. I've also come across quite a lot of work that has been done in trying to address these issues. I know that there is a bill on county licensing unified bills, and also some work that was being done by the Commission for Revenue Allocation. We will be able to finalize this work and, where applicable, merge, eradicate, and be able to consolidate some of these licenses and levies. We can use technology, but of course it's in consultation with the stakeholders, including county governments, so that we support our hotels, which form one of the anchors to our tourism, so that we can develop and promote the tourism. The other question on Section 35(2) of Conservation Act, we need to work very closely with the county governments. I believe that under that section, we need to come up with clear procedures that will be followed and guidelines, so that we're able to attract investors that will take up the opportunities that are so much needed. We require to upgrade our infrastructure in terms of hotels and other tourist attractions, and we need a very good coexistence between the conservation areas and our tourism. The conservation areas form the backbone, and we need clarity. I have realized that many of the issues that face many industries, including the tourism industry and sector, all are due to lack of enough clarity in procedures, in regulations and processes. Mr. Chairman, if approved, just like I have done in my other assignments, I promise to bring a lot of clarity, streamline processes, so that we get efficiency.
Mugara, Owen?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker and Chair. I just want to ask one question on problem solving, another one on policy, and another one on something.
No.
Okay.
Either one.
I will put all of them in one question. My question is, how will you solve the problem of the Ronald Ngala Utani College, which was a legacy project by the late President Kibaki, but up to today we are still waiting, and it is actually affecting the tourism sector in terms of training. Also, in the same breath, is to ask you, what is your take on the Open Sky